I'm in charge of basically component testing for combi meters and sort of other ECUs for automotive applications, so mainly on current production vehicles but also future development as well. So it'll involve anything from testing combi meters on the analog aspect of it, from dial pointers and LEDs, all the way up to the software logic behind some of the average fuel consumption and other features in the combi meters themselves. Funny story, so yeah, I've always wanted to get involved in some sort of motorsport or racing. So from a young kid, from being 8 or 9, watching Formula One, that was always the aspiration of getting into Formula One, trying to develop cars, trying to design and become the best. And it was a case that it phased off to, well, let's be more realistic and let's get into actual automotive for the mass market, because at the end of the day, that's what everyone sees, and that's a way of giving back to everyone and being able to get them, well, give back for them and make their lives a little bit easier in terms of something as simple as having a feature that works in a combi meter. Giving them a bit of information helps them control their driving style, for instance, and that's my way of giving back to them, rather than sort of selfishly wanting to go into what my passion was of motorsport and trying to be the best. But you can still do that in other aspects, so that was where my main interest came. And it's funny how I went from a real mechanical background to then phasing off, because it was a case of everything is leading towards electronics nowadays, or some sort of digital control, that if you're not able to adapt, and you can't really survive. So it was a case of taking the mechanical side and going, okay, these are my skill sets that I've learned at university or at school, and then developing them to then being able to apply them to something else, such as electronics, which I find interesting. I find it a great challenge, and I hope people can see that and try and accept that themselves, because at the end of the day, if you stay stationary and stagnant, you tend not to progress anywhere. And that's trying to get people out of that mindset of trying to stay out of get out of their comfort zones and actually try and push themselves a little bit more, because you get a lot of rewards, you get a lot of satisfaction from doing that. If my missus was to describe me, yeah, she would probably prefer if I sort of relaxed a little bit more and didn't constantly try to progress or achieve at the rate that I'm trying to. But yeah, I always want to try and do better. I don't want to stay stationary. You've got plenty of time to sleep when you get older, so while you can, let's push forward as much as we can, really. From my point of view, it's enjoyable just to be able to see people's interactions with it. So it's not only a case of, oh, I'm implementing something that will make someone's life easier. It's interesting to see what problems there are out there, and how people look at certain situations, because it's a case of, you can have something very, very simple that myself I would overlook, but it's an annoyance to someone else. So once you get that feedback in, it's a case of, okay, this is how certain people are thinking or how they use a certain product. So yeah, okay, let's find a solution to this, let's make their life a little bit easier. So yeah, I do enjoy that sort of aspect of it, and do enjoy sort of being able to make that impact and sort of affect that many people, rather than sort of keeping myself to myself. So yeah, I do enjoy that. So I found it quite difficult at school to sit there and read a book. To me, it was boring. I'm not going to lie about that. It was as soon as I started doing a lot more hands-on stuff and got to build projects, got to actually experience things and sort of touch and feel, that was when I started to enjoy engineering a lot more. And I think electronics is one of those ones where it's almost like a black art, really. You sit there, a lot of people look at it and go, oh, how does that work? I don't quite know how that works, I can't imagine it, but with these little sort of tinker kits and stuff like that, you can actually get your hands on them and actually sort of build your way through a problem and build a full system and actually understand, okay, this is what this does, and then apply it to something else. So personally speaking, 16 to 18 is too late. By that point, people have already made their decision of what they want to do, where they want to get into. I wouldn't say it's a case of you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but it's a case of, if you catch them from 6 to 8, lower primary school up to secondary school, and go from, right, here we go. You might perceive an engineer to be one thing, but actually this is how an engineer impacts your life, from simple as having an iPhone, for instance, or having an electric toothbrush. It's someone's there who's designed that and created it, and you need to really sort of get people interested and say, actually, don't you want to do that instead of sit there and be a footballer or sit there and perform for people? I think that's very important. I think there's a big missing link between being an engineer and how it affects everyone in real life. And I think if those tracks can be made at a younger age, I think there'll be a lot more interest in it, and actually it would help out quite a lot. I think it's really good, sort of, you see, I shouldn't really, but large banks sort of pushing towards sort of coding applications and stuff like that in young. So I think that's a really good aspect. If I had that when I was younger, it would have been great because it gives you that basic understanding, basic fundamentals of this is how things work in the background, and you can actually achieve this. And it's like a language. If you pick it up from a young age, your brain's like a sponge. You pick so many things up so quickly, it's so much easier. And if you can do it at that point, it gives you a massive skill set to then do wonderful things when you're older. So yeah, I think it's important. It's a bit more on a plate nowadays that you don't have to look too far to go to an event or to have something come to your school, which I think is ideal. Like, I've been involved in the past with STEM activities, and seeing their enthusiasm and sort of the simple entertainment that you can give someone from a couple of plastic bottles and some wooden skewers and some wheels is amazing. Sort of, I used to love that when I was a kid. I used to sit there. I used to get left in my granddad's garden, wood, batteries, whatever you want, and used to make random things, anything from like go-karts that probably wouldn't work or crash, or to chairs and bits and pieces. It's that sort of thing. It's not to be scared to get your hands dirty and do something and try and create. That's I think the important thing. But yeah, I definitely think it's a lot better for younger generation, but it could be pushed a little bit more. My personal ambition is to sort of eventually 5-10 years time try and create my own business where I'm doing more of a manufacturing and creation using laser cutters and CNC machinery, where I can then involve the younger generation to teach them skills of how to create and produce products rather than just buy off the shelf. That's where I see myself in long term, but short term I would like to progress. I would like to sort of try and eventually get more towards the management side of it and sort of improve my skills personally to be able to manage larger groups of people, to be able to actually implement a team of people to create products rather than just sort of do it myself. In terms, I found it difficult in the past to let go and give ownership to other people. Where I always try and, I wouldn't say keep it myself, but I always want to try and improve it, so it ends up I keep it myself and eventually then have it taken off of me rather than sort of passing it on. So yeah, I would like to eventually progress, sort of lead engineer, potentially management if I could, to then free up some time for myself, I suppose, to then be able to focus on personal projects and stuff. So yeah, that's my overall 5 and 10 year goal.